Hey, good morning, John. Hope you're great. Hope that you are doing well up there. I bet it was a cold one this morning. Hey, let me know how the audio is this morning. If it sounds okay. 40 degrees yesterday morning. That's I would have thought even a little chillier. That's boy, that is a lot for uh, the middle of September. That's coming hard. That's coming hard and fast. So we'll we'll endeavor to persevere that for sure. Like, but I'm not sure 2020 would be any different. So, what are our expectations? You know, it seems like this has got all the got all the pieces and parts. Great, good. Hey, Vicky. Good morning. Glad to see you here. Hope you're well. Good morning, Jamie. Good to see you. Glad you're good. Hope you're doing all right. It's been good to see folks coming in here. So good to be back. So good to be back. It is really, you know, um, too much of that nonsense. And we are back. That was most of our of my time away has I've been wanting to get to is pretty well concluded. So yeah, we'll be here on a more regular basis coming up. So I did see that sunrise photo that you posted. Yeah, put it in the thread here if you have it. Yeah, it is trippy. The west is on fire. The south is underwater. We are cold in a way that we aren't normally cold, although it's not as catastrophic in any of those sorts of things. 2020 is continuing not to disappoint. That is for sure. Feeling more than fantastic. Oh, good. That's great. I am so glad. That is good news. Good news. Yes, we're all. I have been. My allergies have been getting me. Boy, I that it is fall. It is a sure sign of fall. I can pretty much set the calendar for it. Although this is early, I'm still like I've got my typical allergy things going on here. So we got so there's all kinds of goodness going on with the changing of the seasons. All right, if you can't post a photo here, all right, that makes sense. But yeah, if you get a chance, to anybody wants to see the spectacular picture that John put up of catching if any of you have noticed the sun setting these days with the smoke out west and the sunrises have been particularly interesting. Like they've been that this it's not this big kind of sun in the sky. It's been a small red ball, but it's been really a weird shade of red. So there is all kinds of interesting stuff. So Priscilla says she can't hear me. Anybody else having trouble with audio, or are we okay? It might be on your end, I think. Good morning, everybody. Hey, good morning, Irene. Great to see you. Priscilla, I'm glad you're here. I hope you can figure out the audio. Everybody doing okay? Hello. Hello, hello. It is grand. So it is good to be back here at church. It is good to be back here in this place. It is great to be back here with all of you. It really is. It's a gift for me in this time that we might continue our journey together and walk out what this crazy year is bringing along. Okay, now great, good news, Priscilla. So walk out what this crazy year is bringing us. I was just saying a second ago we have The West is on fire. The South is underwater, literally right now. Hurricane Sally came ashore a couple hours ago and is dumping a historic level of water on the South. Uh, we continue to deal with unrest and those who do violence in the streets, and we continue to deal with the continuing and lingering ideas of COVID in our midst. So, yeah, when we think, like, oh, maybe we'll taper off 11/11, like, friends, 2020, it seems like it's just coming into its stride, doesn't it? I mean, I don't mean to say these things flippantly or lightly. I mean, all of these things are incredible things. People are losing their lives, they're losing their livelihoods over them, and so we will continue to hold all of this in our prayers, and you and I, friends, will continue to journey through this together. You're not alone in this. You're not by yourself. You're not that if you look at this thread, you look at the folks that are on this are here today. You look at the folks that over the course of today will come and check this out. You have a place here at First Congregational Church of Fall River. This, whatever other spiritual home you have, whatever other spiritual place that you come to, this digital space that we carve out together, you're a part of our covenant now. You are a part of it. And if you don't like that, well, I don't care. We're going to grab onto you anyway. We're going to love you anyway. Because this is what we are called to in this time. So, it is the 16th day of September at 11:11. So welcome, everybody. It is grand that we might gather together once again. I have been on study leave, which is been a gift for me. I've had the chance to do some reading. I had the chance to do a little planning for what's going to come up in the church year next. I felt this was important right now because we've been kind of going down the stairs backwards on one roller skate in adjusting to what's happening and all the things that are happening in the world. And so it's time to drive, and to use Army speak, we're going to drive a little decisiveness into this, and we're going to kind of claim our year going forward as the church. And we're inviting you to be a part of it on whatever level, whether it's the digital level, whether it's the in-person level. But we're going to begin to bring some things to bear here that are not alone. And so part of what came to me this week was just about how do we do this? What do we do in this place of uncertainty and uncertain times and all this? And so it got me thinking about the 7 churches of Revelation. Now, if you know your book of Revelation, there are 7 churches, and there are 7 angels that send a message to each one of these churches. And they start out with kind of the better churches, and then they go down through the list, and then they get to the kind of the church of Sardis and Philadelphia, who are kind of they're not so great, and then they get to the worst church, which is the church of Laodicea. And the church of Laodicea has this message. So there are these 7 messages that come to these churches. Now, are we in the end times? Do I even like end times talk? I don't. If you know me, that is not my wheelhouse. I think it is one of the great distractions of the world. So I'm not talking end time stuff here. What I am talking about is what these angels were bringing messages to these churches about how they might be in these times of unveiling of what's going on, because that's all Revelation means, is to unveil, right? We're going to reveal. It's just a big revealing. This is 2020, for whatever we want to call it. It's many things, but it is a great reveal party. Have you not figured that out yet? That it's a great reveal party? Yeah, maybe you're revealing who your friends are. Maybe it's revealing who will stand with you in things. Maybe it's revealing what really matters in your life. But this is 2020. If it is anything, if our encounter with COVID is anything, it is this great reveal party of what our true values are, of what really matters, of what we're going to really call important when we have to maybe put a little more skin in the game than we normally would. So here we are in Revelation. So I wanted to talk about the worst church, the church of Laodicea. This one that comes and so this is the message of the angel to the church of Laodicea. To the angel of the church in Laodicea writes, the words of the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the origin of God's creation. I know your works. You are neither cold nor hot. I wish that you were either cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. For you say, I am rich, I prospered, I don't need anything. You do not realize that you are wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. And therefore I counsel you, buy from me gold refined by fire, so that you may be rich, white robes to clothe you, to keep the shame of your nakedness from being seen, and salve to anoint your eyes, so that you may see. I reprove and discipline those whom I love. Be earnest, therefore, and repent. Listen, I am standing at the door and knocking. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in and eat with you, and you with me. Ah, so good. You know, it's another, what is it? It's another great message of Jesus wanting to be our lunch pal. Like, seriously, like just wanting to sit with us in the lunch table when nobody else wants to sit with us. That's that's the whole, this whole letter is really like, come on, let's go have lunch together. That we might know that as this, beautiful and brilliant moment of fellowship and love and caring for each other. What's the point of that? Now, I want you to hear this too. This is a quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Solzhenitsyn was one of the greatest figures of the 20th century when it comes to the unmasking. Some people say the revealing of what was actually going on inside the Soviet Union. Some people say that it was Solzhenitsyn and his book, The Gulag Archipelago, was alone responsible for the fall of the Soviet Union. I think that might be an exaggeration, but not by much. He spends his life reporting on this. And he has a quote that it says, and he says this, he says, we cannot, and this is, understand that he's saying this from the perspective of 14 years in a gulag, 14 years in a concentration camp. He's saying it from this perspective. He says, we cannot, in order to live, not live. We cannot, in order to live, not live. The church of Laodicea, the worst church, gets this letter from the angel, gets this message from God that says, because you are neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. We cannot, in order to live, not live. Now, what does that mean? I think it means that we're in this wonky place. All these things that I just said that's happening this very morning. The West is on fire. The South is underwater. Your heart may be in that place. Jamie says her heart's out there with Hurricane Sally right now. All that we're facing in our world and the uncertainty of it, the which way do we turn? Are we hot or cold? What do we do about certain things? Solzhenitsyn suggests that we must live. We must live. We cannot, in order to live, not live. We cannot build a fortress around us so high and so tall that we cannot be touched. We must declare for something. If we are hot or cold, that matters less to God than this place where I think we're on, but I think we're off. I think we're going to do it, but we're not going to go all the way. I think we're in, but we're not quite there. Friends, this is key to this time. You know, I've seen there's so many restaurants closing right now. It's not even funny, but I see often that people are lamenting the fact that these restaurants are closing. And yet, if you talk to somebody that will say, they'll say, have you been, did you go there? Like, oh, no, I can't go to eat yet. I don't feel safe. I'm like, now, don't hear what I'm not saying. This is a great opportunity for you to hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying you should be going to that restaurant. I'm not saying that you should be home keeping yourself safe. I'm not saying either one of those. Okay? What I am saying is the cognitive dissonance between saying, oh, I'm going to grieve and mourn the loss of this thing that I'm not going to live into. You see what I'm saying? You see where we are right now? Because I am neither hot nor cold. I know there are people in our church right now that have literally been nowhere but the grocery store and back. They feel like they're compromised. They feel like they're afraid, and we've been trying to keep in touch with them and keep our arms around them and all that sort of stuff. And that's not a criticism. That's not a like, oh, you're doing it wrong. You're like, nobody knows, and it's your fight to fight. Like it's yours to negotiate, but we at the simultaneously cannot, in order to live, not live. If this is the decision we make, we must hold that place and say, this is what matters to me. And if we are lamenting the loss of the things in our world, then we must overcome our fear and step out into the world and grab onto those things. If it means taking a risk, it means taking a risk. But we cannot, as Solzhenitsyn said, from the belly of a concentration camp. This isn't academic thought for him. This was lived out reality. You couldn't avoid the guards in the hope that you don't get a beating, but not make it into the food line to get enough bread to survive that day. You had to stand in the line and you had to get the bread, or else you would die. You must engage the world. So don't hear that I'm judging people wherever they're coming down on particular things, or whatever their political stripe is on the understanding of what's going on, the unrest in the world. That's not my point. My point is because I think there's much bigger things for us to talk about. And the larger things for us to talk about is the spiritual reality that we are being drawn into in this Laodicean reality I think we're finding ourselves in. That where we can't be hot or cold. We feel like we can't be hot or cold. If I'm too hot, somebody's going to yell at me. If I'm too cold, somebody's going to yell at me. If I'm too this, if I'm too that, whatever. God's injunction to us. Jesus' words. Let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Be hot. Be cold. Whatever it means. Now, there are three things. There are three things that this Church of Laodicea is invited to do. And I think they are the three things I think they're the three orienting things for us as we're trying to figure out, like, what does it mean for me to be hot? What does it mean for me to be cold? What does it mean for you to be hot? What does it mean for you to be cold? And there's these three things. First is gold refined by fire, that you may be rich. Buy gold. White robes to clothe you away from shame. And third, salve to anoint your eyes. So it's about gold. Gold is a symbol of love. It is about having compassion and empathy for the world. It is by yourself tested empathy. Again, to use my silly little example, not silly for many people, but my example of the restaurant. It's like, what it be to be in that place where nobody's showing up and you're going broke? Can we have empathy for that? And what does that call me to do? And I'm not just saying go to dinner for the sake of going to dinner. I'm talking about people and places that you know and you care about. That this notion of what does it mean for us to have empathy in this world, to have empathy, to have caring for the people around us, not to be self-possessed in our own, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But to say, what does it mean for me to do this to that person? What does it mean for me to reach out and check on someone? What does it mean for me to gather somebody near me? And what does it mean for me to hear a story of somebody's anxiety? What does it mean for me to go out and patronize a business that I value and love and want to stay in this world? What does it mean for me to make sure I'm healthy and to take care of myself? And how that affects the people who love me? Give buy gold. Live in this sense of with a sense of empathy to the people around you about how what you're doing affects them. It's not the only way to live, but in this case of trying to figure out our own hot and coldness, it is a beautiful little way of navigating, of finding our way in between. The second is that we might have white robes to clothe ourselves to keep our shame and nakedness. This idea of putting on that which is good and right and true in our life. Putting on our life. You know, it is easy to spend time in video games, time in avoidance, time doing stuff that doesn't matter, time but adorn our lives, put our lives in what is right and good and true. Think on the beautiful things. And as Paul says, all that is right and good and true, think on this. That to spend time in that. And it will tell us what is hot and what is cold in our lives. And lastly is this idea of perspective. Salve that our eyes may see. None of us have any perspective right now, friends. None of us have any perspective. We are all perspectively wonkied. Whether we are looking through the lens of media, whether we're looking through the lens of our front door, whether we're looking through the lens of what the way we think the world is, our lives are not right in terms of the way that we see. And so to pray and to call on God for this way to see rightly, so that we might see properly in this world. We might see what we know we need and what we know we are about. Because seeing with real empathy, you know, to see the struggle of that restaurant owner. I'm just staying with this example. Just humor me on it. Don't take this too close to heart. But staying with that restaurant owner, staying with that the people who are concerned about us and our own health, seeing with the lens of of what is broken in people's lives, in people's worlds, that they would take to violence. Seeing what the need is of those who are being inundated by fire and water right now. All of this, to see with the lens of empathy and to clothe ourselves in the right things and the good things of life. That is a way that we can move through this time into our own hot or coldness, so that God might not spit us out, so that we might be invited to the lunch table. We might come to the lunch table willingly rather than dragged or coerced or lost. I want to just, Solzhenitsyn's so good. I want to end with this today, that there's this was from a lecture he gave in 1983. So this is towards the end of his life. So he says, more than half a century. This goes way back. So this is, again, remember, 1983. So this is more than half a century ago. So we're talking in the 1930s, right after the Russian Revolution, after all the craziness, after the purges, even before World War II. He says this. He says, more than half a century ago, while I was still a child, I recall hearing a number of older people offer the following explanation for the great disasters that had befallen Russia. Men have forgotten God, and that is why all this happened. Since then, I have spent well nigh 50 years working on the history of our revolution. In the process, I have read hundreds of books, collected hundreds of personal testimonies, and I have already contributed 8 volumes of my own toward the effort of clearing away the rubble left by that upheaval. But if I were asked today to formulate as concisely as possible the main cause of the ruinous revolution that swallowed up some 60 million of our people, I could not put it more accurately than to repeat: men have forgotten God, and that is why all this happened. Friends, in our days, let your yes be yes, let your no be no. Be hot and be on fire for something. Be cold and be resilient and resisting something. And always remember that God is with you, for you, ahead of you, and calling you to the lunch table. if you will but come and live with the gold of empathy, love and adorn yourself with the right things of your life, and live into this grand sainthood of all believers that God has for each of us, with the salve that may let us see right. All right, friends, that is my, I know, I got all fired up. Well, I haven't been here for a little while, so I had to get a little fired up today. But I am so grateful to be on the journey with you again. We will be back tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, I am supposed to be doing an invocation at the dedication of the Vietnam Wall here in Fall River, Massachusetts. It's super exciting. There's only five of these walls that are going into the country. This one is in New England, so it's going to be honoring Vietnam veterans, so I'm going to be a part of that. That is kicking off right around there, so my hope is to be able to do our 11/11 from that place and from that time. If I can't pull it off, I will give you something here to check in on, but my hope is that we'll have the opportunity to check in at that event tomorrow, because how we remember the saints of old is how we will be remembered, and so we owe them a great duty. But that's tomorrow. So I am thankful for each one of you to be here. I am so glad that we're back, and I am so glad that that you are hot and cold, or whatever you are, on this journey with all of us. So it is tomorrow is 11 o'clock at Veterans Park. So if you're interested in coming down down at Veterans Memorial Park, they'll be unveiling some of the plaques on the walls. So they're hung, and right now they're covered, and they'll be showing those, and I'll be giving the invocation there and part of those ceremonies. So hope to see you all tomorrow, and blessings of grace and peace, friends.